Central focus on climate finance, COP29 brought together nearly 200 countries in Baku and reached a breakthrough agreement. The deal reached the UN climate talks in Azerbaijan ramps up the money that wealthy but historic emitters will provide to developing nations to transition to cleaner energy and adapt to global warming. Take a look at this report.
Nations had struggled to reconcile long-standing divisions over how much rich nations most accountable for historic climate change should provide to poorer countries least responsible but most impacted by Earth's rapid warming. At points, the talks appeared on the brink of collapse, with developing nations storming out of meetings and threatening to walk away should rich nations not cough up more cash. After 2 exhausting weeks of chaotic bargaining and sleepless nights, nearly 200 nations packed through the contentious finance pact in the early hours in a sports stadium in Azerbaijan. After the adoption, India delivered a full-throated rejection of the abysmally poor dollar figure just agreed.
That this document is nothing more than an optical illusion. This, in our opinion, will not address the enormity of the challenge we all face. Therefore, we oppose the adoption of this document. We oppose the adoption of this document. India opposes the adoption of this document, and please take note and regard of what we have just said from the floor of this room.
Many developing countries had pushed for at least $500 billion, but developed nations under political and fiscal pressure had played down such expectations. The African group of negotiators said that the $300 billion climate finance deal is too little too late for the continent.
If we walk back home with 300 and we say that the developed countries are taking the lead, this is an insult to what the convention says. It also said that the developed countries will take the lead, and this lead is climate finance. That the developing country is saying that it's taking the lead with $300 billion till 2035 is a joke. And it's not something we should take lightly. I do not think it's something we should clap our hands and force us to take it. I do not think so. I think we should rethink it.
The US and EU have wanted newly wealthy emerging economies like China, the world's largest emitter, to chip in. The final deal encourages developing countries to make contributions on a voluntary basis, reflecting no change for China, which already provides climate finance on its own terms. This year's COP was the third in a row to be held in a fossil fuel producing country, with both the OPEC Secretary General and the President of host country, Azerbaijan, telling the summit that oil and gas resources were a gift from God. UN Climate Chief Simon Stiell acknowledged the deal was imperfect and said no country got everything they wanted.
No country got everything they wanted, and we leave Baku with a mountain of work to do. The many other issues we need to progress may not be headlines, but they are lifelines for billions of people. So this is no time for victory laps. We need to set our sights and redouble our efforts on the road to Beleng. Even so, we've shown the UN Paris Agreement is delivering, but governments still need to pick up the pace.
In the end, the summit failed to set steps for countries to build on last year's COP28 pledge to transition away from fossil fuels and triple renewable energy capacity this decade. Many negotiators saw this as a failure and a sign that fossil fuel interests were overpowering climate talks. Aarti Rana's report for DD India.